Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back into the world of Golarion? It's the world of the Pathfinder role-playing game system. If you are, I will open a gate and we can plane shift our way to Golarion once more, to the land of Tian Xia, and we're going to be visiting a new country that I haven't talked about before, Hongal. So if you're prepared, grab my hand. Your host and guide, Pathfinder and Dracovin. I will be leading you. Remember to, of course, tip your host with a like and subscribe and the bell over on the YouTube side of things as we dive into the gate. We head once more to Tian Xia. We're arriving in Hongal, in the great northern steppes, the Tundras, at the north of the nation, close to the crown of the world. Hongal people are an interesting people. Normally, they don't welcome visitors as much, except if you're on the trade routes, so be kind to them as we have to approach and become very peaceful here as we learn about them. But if you were to dive into it more and learn more about Hongal people, perhaps with you, Inner Sea World Guide, the Inner Sea World Guide helps you a little bit, along with the Dragon Empire Gazetteers. But of course, the Tian Xia World Guide itself is a great place to get a good view of the nation, especially in the second edition, where we have a lot of basic information. So what is Hongal? Well, it is the northernmost area of the continent of Tian Xia. It is also connected to the crown of the world, at the edge of it. It is the terminus of the path of Agenhe, which is the trade route that goes over the top of the continent, and it also has the connection to the Spirit Road, the trade route that goes through the Forest of Spirits to Minkai. So it has this very valuable thing of this kind of terminus and connection of a lot of trade routes that are the basically overland routes between major areas of Tian Xia and the rest of the world, making it very important in that sense. It's also known as the Tundra of the Horse Lords. Its capital, which is one of its few permanent settlements, is Ordu Agenhe, and the ruler is, I'm going to butcher this man's name, Kiriltai Khan. Khan is his title. We'll talk about it. And the government is a Khanate of loosely affiliated tribes. So that's basically where we're getting into when we look at this area here. There are cat folks, giants, humans, kami, kitsune, ogres, samasarans, all in this area. And Hongali, Minkai, and Tian are the major minor religions. And there are some other religions we can talk about. Well, we'll mention them as we go. So let's look at some basic information here, now that we have that, and kind of look at the history of this place. The northern regions here are a vast open steppe. It's got furious winds, untamed wilderness, and nomadic tribes, who ride the land on fine horses, herding flocks of animals across the tundra in search of greener pastures. This is Hongal. The horse lords of the Tian Xia Khanate have ruled this place for a very long time, and keep these trade routes. But there is a little bit of a history to it. Hongal began as a nation and territory centuries ago with Hudugan, who claimed himself to be a kind of half-giant and was the land's first Khan. He rose to his throne in negative 384 IC, fighting back against the great dangers, protecting its divided people with a massive red spear granted him by the sky spirits from above. And for 5 years, his tribe grew empowered and strong-willed, learning to survive off the steppe's few resources. Basically, he grew in power. But Hudugan's four brothers grew to hate and envy his strength and position. So 5 years later, just as many beasts can be felled with surprise in great numbers, so did the brothers cut his rule short with blades in the night. Hudugan's tribe refused to pay loyalty to these false Khans. They chose instead to go back to their isolated lives before Hudugan, leaving the treacherous quartet to not but a handful of vilest members in search of new sources of power. The united tribes were divided. We go hundreds of years in the future, into 164 IC. The brothers returned with dark magic that granted them unnaturally long lives and an army of ogres and giants from the Nightford Mountains. They razed the land, detonated and scattered the tribes of the area. One tribe leader, Ikanaza, fled north from the desperate bid to bring Hongal's tribes together, just as Hudugan had done. His pleas gained not but the favor of the tribes, but also the founding spirits of Hongal, who blessed his army with the speed of wind, with enhanced arrows bore from Hudugan's spirit self. Ikazanza vanquished the brothers, driving their dark armies back to the mountains. Ikazama named the final battlefield Mayaji, the Spear of the Steppe. Here the Tian Xia once more gathered together under a single banner and chose Ikanza as their leader, the new Khan, and began the Khanate system. So this was we had the old system, it was broken apart, we had a new vision, and under the threat of the old, basically cursed brothers of the first Khan, we reunited again. Today, Mayaji is in ruins, the spear broken by an Etten and his army of giants. The southern lands have all been abandoned, save for bandits and small forces of rogue tribes that have denounced the Khanate. Ordu Agahi, Hongal's trade capital, is in chaos, as Prince Bakassar is missing following uprising. Spiritual leaders say that Muliwan helped travelers pass through the spirit road following Hongal's great spirits, and the Tianlan tribes continue their nomadic ways, surviving on the land in the increasing dangerous wilderness. So basically, that's today. Things are kind of a mess. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but yeah, keep in mind, things are a little bit of a mess. So here's Hongal, the region of it, that is under their control. As you can see, it's kind of got the mountains that kind of L shape around it, the top which goes kind of up to the crown of the world, and the Forest of Spirits over to the east to kind of border the entire region. So they are kind of a region that's a little bit divided off in a lot of ways. We'll talk about their neighbors a little bit too, because they do have some neighbors, which will be their own video eventually also. So it's at high altitudes. It's a vast wilderness with blue skies that last most of the year. To the north of lies the Tian Quang. I'm probably butchering it. The Wall of Heaven. The mountain range that shields the width of the land from the world. To the east, the Forest of Spirits, as I mentioned, and the west of Hongal is separated by Shangguan, the desert region, by rolling hills and the Iqilin River. I'm butchering all these names, so I apologize. Southern hills have dried up, giving way to fissures and canyons and strange rock formations named as the Edvergaz Chasm, which has a natural barrier for the nomads. Don't want to go too close to that area anyway. So the rest of Hongal, other than these kind of regions off to the sides, is flat plains of grass and scrubland, with windstorms that rage across it year-round. The most feared, of course, being the Quotenier, a seasonal storm that leaves behind strangely mutilated corpses. Gross. It's ill-suited for crop growth, this region, as people subsist by moving grazing herds from pasture to pasture. Even the summer borders with the waters of the Sapphire Sound isn't safe from the harsh winds. So, turning from what should be fertile land into a small strip of forest. So yeah, the winds don't help. At most, some forests can grow in the region. But that's kind of down towards the bottom corner there near the water. The northeastern hills, a massive iron pole bores deep into the earth and pierces the heaven. This Champa structure is a place of pilgrimage for shamans throughout Hongal. They believe it was used when the great sky spear, Teniger, split the sea and sky to create a land between. It's a conversion point of energies from all across the world universe and used to travel through the plains, but whatever ancient secrets it has is really unknown. We're going to look at the seasons. Winter is long, harsh, dark. Heavy snowfall in the mountains, while the rest is beset by frosty windstorms. Nighttime temperatures can reach sub-zero that threaten lives and livelihoods. Most tribes move north, using the mountains as cover from the worst of the northern winds. Many use this time to camp close together, staying warm, with meats, soups, and the joy of each other's companies. Winter's last month is spent preparing for one of the most important celebrations, Skansar, the lunar year. Families make thousands of buz, folded dumplings with minced meat and spices, prepare gifts, ready to show off the finest attire and horses. This lasts for 3 days when the celebration happens. Spring is marked by the arrival of the, what are these again? The Kukotengir, the seasonal storms, as I've mentioned them. Temperatures are rising, days are starting to get longer, and a lot of the steppes animals are coming out of hibernation. Tribes say their goodbye before moving to spring pastures and lower grounds near rivers and scattered oases. This is keeping newborns alive, as predators and windstorms are still a danger. Animals are shorn to get fine wool, and in Kashmir, travelers in Urdu Angzai begin trekking the path. Spring is the time to trek the path. And citizens of Mulawan welcome warmer winds from Sapphire Sound to begin their growing season. They're only ones that can kind of grow something. Summer is busy, and it's likely time for travelers remember most. Tribes make their way to the greener central pastures as the weather warms and cover is hot as the winter is cold. Free time is spent preparing for Andan, the most anticipated event of the season of competition celebration. All participating tribes gather at the Khan's tent at a location determined by last year's Andan. Then for 3 days, it's a massive market, connections, everything. Fashion shows, performances, magical duels, more. Autumn is a beautiful time for travel as the weather cools down and massive flocks of migrating birds fly across the blue sky. Crops in Mulawan are harvested, and the northern forests change colors. Autumn is the time to prepare for the winter. Herds are shepherded to secluded pastures to get fatter in peace. Food for people and animals is prepared, as well as insulating materials for clothes and gear. So yes, the herd's members least likely to survive through the winter are slaughtered and their meat preserved. Most celebrations of this time are small local events, while the larger cities do have some celebrations around the influx of citizens. That's a year. And we can talk about the two cities, and we should too before we move on from talking about the area as a big place here. Mulawan and Urdu Angzai. Mulawan, it's located at the intersection of land, forest, and sea. It's a vital place for travelers that are going on the Spirit Road to Minka, through this forest of spirits. It exudes a calming air and serenity that stark contrast to the Urdu Angzai's hectic streets. Small temples and shrines, monuments to numerous deities, spirits and kami adorn the roads and nearby display in between neatly displayed shops. English, please speak. Yes. It's primarily humans, and the majority of residents are actually Soko Kitsune that walk the street in their tailless forms, acting as guardians and liaisons to the forest economy. If you're going to travel the Spirit Road, you're under constant scrutiny for any harm you might cause the forest. So yeah. On the other hand, Urdu Angzai, the road to the west and trade capital of Hongal. It's ever-present and strangely comforting din of money trading hands. Goods and services of all kinds, mundane and magical, can be found in the narrow streets as long as you know where to look. There's a struggle between the Silver Ospreys, we'll talk about that, and Bakishigar's loyalists, sometimes spilling out into the streets. The Sigma residents remain ever hospitable, as ever, taking any strange interruptions in stride and guiding customers around the worst of the chaos. And you can always unwind if you're a visitor after a long day to see Summer's famous hot spring lake, either in the public or private sections, should you be able to afford it, of course. Alright, so who's in charge? Well, here's our good man, our current Khan, Kirli Tai Khan. And he's important to it, but we do have to talk about each individual tribe. A tribe's leader, the Baga Bahut, is elected by that tribe to become the predecessor of Pathfinder. Advising it is their Dovakung, a council of spellcasters, traditionally containing oracles and sorcerers, but has included druids, psychics, and more. Attitudes of Baga Bahults often clash with smaller tribes deferring to larger ones, but all are bidden to follow a strict code of behavior for the collective good of the tribe. Great respect is paid for their elected official of the largest and eldest tribes. They'll all stand equal under the head of the largest tribe of the entire Khanate, the Khan. The Khan is elected by the Baga Bahults and the previous Khan's Dovakung. So basically, the previous Khan has their set of advisors, and that with all the leaders of all the tribes, small and big, get together and basically, once the Khan dies, elect a new Khan. Kirli is this current sovereign. Bowling for decided a massive gur with which comforts rivaling a home city, traveling on a route known to all Baga beholds. So basically, where the Khan is, all the leaders of tribes will know. So if they need to get to him or send a message to him, they can. That's very important, you know. Both Orgdu, Agte, and Mulawan are under his rule, but he doesn't stay there. Tradition reads that Orgdu Ahai is ruled by a sibling of the Khan, which is currently Prince Paskar, his younger brother. And position of Mulawan's ruler is currently filled by Sujune, which is appointed by the Khan's Duvukang in conjunction with representing the Forest of Spirits. Tujan, a Saracen. So aiding in the task of governing the people here are the Barkhul, mobile protectors, an army of the steppes under the Khan's authority. Each major road, border, and encampment site is assigned to jurisdiction of a troop of riders called a Newton that strive to keep the plains safe from bandits, ill-meaning outsiders, and predators. A Newton leader can act as an impromptu adjudicator, though if inside a tribe's camp, they must defer authority to the Bagan Pol. So they basically, the Khan does have a kind of standing army too in here. They're the basically smaller groups of riders that are together his army. So Kirilati has a well-deserved reputation for voraciousness and a short temper. His most defining trait, however, is a honeyed tongue. He is capable of talking a horse out of the skin, they say. He is loved by the Khanate for his firm hand, which they hope will keep a key to reclaiming southern Hongal. Remember, southern Hongal is kind of a little chaotic. He also knows that Maje Etten leader Nega is amassing an army, but is hesitant to send the Barco on such a dangerous mission while Ardenham is in chaos. Remember, brothers disappeared. Main trade city is in a little bit of a chaos. We mentioned that. The Etten leader robbing an army, and he wants to reclaim the south. So it's still a big chaotic time. Of course, there is the important members of his Dovukhan, which Jazaktra, which is a Kitsune oracle, is a long-time friending of the Khan, and is the head of the Silent Storm, the secretive information network currently tasked with investigating rumors of treachery, and strangely active in the northeast around the Sharpa structure. Bastakar is a permanently smiling appointed ruler of Orgdu Agtai. He's well known for his massive appetite for both food and women, and his habit of beheading followers given any opportunity. A habit that has him caught up as the residents are fed up with cowering under his frivolous whims. He's in hiding along with his royal advisor Cham, as the palace is overtaken by the Silver Ospreys, a group of protesters calling for his head on a spear. So he's gone, but he's still around, but it's also led to chaos because the palace has been overtaken. And yes, the Khan really wants to handle that, but his brother is kind of a dick. And of course, Kirigun is the leader of the Silver Ospreys, and despite all attempts to shrug off the title, after Bester beheaded her family, she gathers these disgruntled residents to the palace of protest. She's a strong spirit, apparently overdue to change the city for the better. So those are our big players in what's going on in there. Okay, now that we have an idea of the players, the people there, let's actually talk about the people and the culture in this case. It's a remote location, and there are many ancestors that call the place home. But the bronze-skins Tian Xia are the most common sight amongst the nomadic tribes. The Kitsune are regular there, of course, in Mulawad for the Spirit Road. And, of course, many occupy spots in a lot of tribes, Dovukhan. Samasarans keep seeking a quiet place to embark on personal journeys into their past, reside amongst the Mulawan's monks and temples. While those seeking a more physical journey join nomadic tribes for opportunity to visit places from their past lives. Amaruns are rare, but a welcome sight as they come down from their mountain homes. These winter cat folk have distinctly large eyes, large eye-like patterns on their backs, allowing them as Hongal's greatest practitioners of eagle hunting. The sight of a massive catfolk holding a golden eagle on a thick leather glove, making way around Ada, never fails to draw attention. Nomads, by necessity, are conservative with what they possess. So, Everything inside a camp serves some kind of purpose and must be able to pack with relative ease before moving to locations. Families share a single gall, which is always set up in a specific way. In between the center poles is a hearth, a sacred place. The northern area holds a shrine, altars, precious items, while the south is where guests are seated. In the west is areas for sleeping and storage, while the east holds the kitchen and dedicated areas for cooking and cleaning. Items the family typically sell are found hanging on the garden walls, along with tapestries, ornaments, and decorations. Clothing is important. The most is the traditional Tian Xia clothing of the Dell, a one-piece robe with long sleeves, high collar, and wide overlapping flat buttons on the right shoulder, or diagonal across the chest to signify important religious figures. Seasonal Dell are made with appropriate materials, with wintertime Dell covered by sheep or goat skin, and often includes sleeve extensions that act as gloves. Daily wear is generally darker, earthier colors, while Dell for special occasions are ornamental and bright. Animal husbandry is the most important industry, nearly everywhere. Horses, sheep, goats, camels, and cows can be found all grazing on the steppe. There's a desert nearby. By far the most valuable are the horses of the tribe. Each tribe prides themselves on raising their own special breed of horse, prioritizing speed and power in their tricks. Children learn to ride before they learn to walk. Raising animals that are used for food and materials, particularly goat cashmere, is often made to make beautiful kills. Wild yozabu are common on the steppes, and less so part of the tribe's herd due to their pungent stench and aggressive nature. Reindeer are only cut by small, more reclusive tribes in the northeast who believe they were chosen by Tianger to protect the most prized relics, and blessed with an unnaturally long life. There are other such special breed herds, basically the chief of which is a herd of prophecy, a group of cattle said to see the future, whose milk is to grant prophetic futures. And locations only owned by the Khan and his advisors. As for faiths, there are various practices in Hongals, but chief among them is the Green Faith, and the Hongal variation called the Blue Faith. This variation focuses on the great sky spirit Kenigir, believing it to be the site of Hongal's great spirits of earth, sea, and wind. Blue Faith practitioners see Shangguan's Tian Xia as closely related cousins in the faith who are welcome of any visitors from the west. So basically, if you are a member of the Blue Faith and head west, and you get to somewhere with the Green Faith, you are welcomed as a cousin from that. Desna is revered by many for their blessings of travel around the steppe. Kufushachi is involved during festivals to bring luck and good fortune. Yamatsugi for his protection. Among soldiers and serious Adam competitors, General swamps them as favored figure, blessing their horses with swift wind and their arrows with hawk's precision. Mulakan houses altars and temples for plethora of deities, the largest being Daikisu and Irori, and by no surprise, Avatar is heavily venerated in Ordu Agahai. Massive temple marks the transition from the city to the path of Agahai proper. All merchants must pass through to ask for prosperity or give Avatar a due of the true. Yeah, there we go. There's Hongal, in a nutshell. I mean, this was definitely an interesting dive into the nation. We have an idea of it. And there are a lot of places for adventure. The threat of the Ettins, the problems in the south, the dangers in their capital city that's going on, connections to the spirit road, to the trade route to the north. All these different things that can be going on that can lead to great stories for adventurers. And certainly speaking, if you are a group of adventurers that may have to do something there, dealing with the locals and making good deals with them is a good thing, though you do have to be in guard because there isn't a lot out there. If you're leaving the roads, the major trade routes, yeah, you're kind of less tolerant to it. If you're spending your coin moving onwards and not straying from the trade routes, you're welcome. As soon as you leave those, well, you might have some trouble just with you're not from there a lot of times. And what you're doing, well, is it friendly to the people of this place or not? Certainly speaking, they live with a lot of trade and goods coming in. The trade helps them. They can survive on their own without that trade, but having that connection to the trade route keeps things good and keeps other materials that maybe are harder to find or more difficult to gain in. All these tribes are supported by it. And the United Nation of the Khanate exists because of it. The various tribes that are very separate in a lot of ways, but still ready to unite as one as needed. If the call comes and the Khan says there's trouble, they will rise. That's the thing, is they are all beholden to the Khan and respect the Khan. I think it's because they elect these leaders to lead them that there is a respect from them. A respect of the old guard giving way to a new guard, and the new guard, and these advisors that are magical to all the leaders of the various tribes. It is an interesting situation that they're in a very harsh and deadly land, with deadly winds, an environment which just wants to kill creatures that are very dangerous, and a difficult life that they make do on very often. You have to respect the Hongal people, very much so, for their strength, dedication, and understanding, and unity when needed. Unity when needed. And honestly speaking, as long as you're friendly, and you're giving the right proper gifts of respect, you'll probably be welcomed into one of their nomadic tribes' camps as they stop for a visit in the region. Even if you are an outsider, if you're showing respect, if you're giving a gift, then, hey, maybe you'll attract the right kind of attention. No. But we'll leave it there. I enjoyed diving into Hongal. Hongal's a very interesting region, definitely speaking. It's that entire thing of there's a lot of our world parallels in a lot of cultures in here, but they develop in unique, interesting ways. It's sort of like, I like saying it, we take a core of a culture we know and evolve it in a Golarion way. And I really like that here because this does connect up with, like, Mongolian culture, honestly speaking. And it is a very interesting one, too, in this fantasy world. And I really like this nation, kind of diving into it and learning about it. And it does scream lots of interesting stories that I could tell in these things, Maybe that's one thing I'll do one day, is I'll do adventures in various nations. I've been inspired more and more as we're exploring more interesting places in the world, visiting a lot more places, and learning of all these places, too. So, but yeah, no, I hope you did. If you want to see more stuff like this, I have a schedule. The schedule tells you when I'm either live on Twitch or uploading stuff on YouTube. That's on my social media, my Discord, my Blue Sky, my Twitter/X, and of course over on my YouTube in the Community tab. That tells you just... The social media is a great place to see updates to the schedule, changes, all that kind of stuff. The YouTube side is very exact. That just would change if there's a problem with one of the videos or something like that. But otherwise, when you see it, that's when it's going to go up on YouTube. As for the Twitch side, that's a little bit more open-ended. I keep that up to date in my social media just for that. I kind of give a general time I aim for, but life makes it not always easy to do that, and then I have certain schedules that I have to keep with. So Twitch is trying to make it a little bit more exact, but YouTube is very exact. But hey, keep an eye out, and maybe you can join me for a gaming stream or recording these. Remember, check out, I have live plays. I've done Pathfinder 1st edition, I'm going to be doing 2nd edition in the future, D&D 5e, and World of Darkness so far. Discussing Tabletop Saturday at 6, where I talk about news of the week, deeper discussion topics. And hey, what do you think about Hongal? Would you think of some adventures there, a character from there, or maybe, if you were traveling across one of the things, what you would do when you visit these places? There's a lot of ideas that could run through your heads, whether character, GM, or player. What would this Hongal need for you? I'm curious, so let me know. Anyway, I'm going to get going. We're going to hang out with Twitch maybe a little bit more, maybe record another video. But until the next time, I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.